Hey, enough with the Busan stuff for now. I went there for 3 times over 2 months. So, back to my house, back to normal, at least for this video, although I will have more adventures soon. I picked this up. This is a new Volfas Engelmann. I always saw these beers in Korea out and about. It's like from Lithuania, which is just bizarre to have those in Korea. But you'll notice the top of the can has the foil for protection. But then everything's upside down. All the writing's upside down. You know, it's still in English language. So it's not like, oh, that's the Russian alphabet. They don't, you know, a little bit of that on here. But apparently, I'm looking at online, this is a historical unfiltered. And this goes back to the beers that they made when they first opened. And it says, I love it. Even though we had the most advanced equipment of those times, the beer was not being filtered, so the remaining beer yeast would sink to the bottom of the bottle. So this can basically instructs you to turn it over, don't shake it, that'd be stupid, but turn it over, turn it back, turn it over, turn it back a few times, let's say 3 times. Yeah, the upside down image on the packaging is not an error. This way one pays attention to flip the bottle carefully up and down several times before opening to spread the yeast throughout the beer, thus giving it a more luxurious taste. All right, so let's do that. Now, if this were a bottle, that'd be easier to see the actual effect. When I pour it, you're gonna see that it's kind of murky. I mean, I've never had one. I imagine that's what it'll look like. But yeah, let's get the yeast mixed around a bit. There is a little Korean sticker on it, so I want to see what it says. 170 years, Dwijippo, 568. Volfas Engelmann Historic Unfiltered. Okay. Again, I always love it when I read Hangul, and I know what that means, and that's because it's literally the English words just put into the Korean alphabet, so it doesn't really help me a whole lot. But let's get this open and let's see what it looks like. This is wasteful, and I'm not a big guy on waste, but, you know, the selfish and, like, you know, the guy says, oh, nice, I know that no one's touched this. I'm pouring it into a glass anyway, so it's not a big deal. Let's do one more. And I'm curious to see the consistency. Because there's a difference between a hazy beer. I mean, I homebrew, right? So I'm used to, with my techniques, having the yeast in the bottom, you know, and I try not to mix it around too much into my brew unless I'm like drinking the last 1/5 of my beer, right? Then I'll kind of, you know, ooh, let's get some yeast in there and see what it tastes like. This is a lager, so the fact that they're advertising it as like, get the yeast in there, bruh, kind of funny. Because this is now about 1/3 full, I'm gonna give it the old swirl and just make sure I really get it out. There's this huge can you can get at Lotte Mart. I can't remember the company. It's called Keller Beer. But they're these huge cans. They're from Germany. And the Keller Beer one is actually really nice, and it's also unfiltered. Keller Beer was what the inn or pub owners would have in the basement, like kind of aging, for like, not special guests, but it was a bit more like, oh, you gotta ask for it, or, you know, they keep it for not a special occasion like Christmas, but it wouldn't be like, you know, some rando. He wouldn't offer it. It was kind of like reserve. So if you ever find those giant liter cans in Lotte Mart, and the one that says Keller Beer, it's a bit of a lighter brown color. That stuff's really good. All right. I'm not disappointed, but I guess as far as lagers go, it has a bit of yeast in it. But as far as like, I guess I'm comparing it to my home brews, which if you really want to agitate the yeast in the bottom and cloud up your beer, it takes 0 effort to get the whole thing just completely opaque. So I suppose for a lager that's like from a professional brewery, yeah, it's a bit... I mean, taste-wise though, we'll have to see. I mean, to spread the yeast throughout the beer, that's giving it a more luxurious taste. They don't advertise the fact that it's going to cloud up your beer. So perhaps I'm looking for being impressed in the wrong place. My life story. Decent enough lager though. Like as far as stuff that's been shipped over here from God knows where. As far as the packaging date, this is from September of last year, which is 6 months. And again, for lagers, that's not the end of the world. God, this thing goes bad March of next year. So I still have another year before the end of date. Lagers age well. They're supposed to be aged. I could drink a bunch of these. And it's not so, and if they're too boring, I wouldn't say that either, right? If it was too smooth or too kind of like, I'd say that they're crushable, right? But I would actually drink quite a few of these, like, with pleasure. Yeah, yeah. It's not amazing, but pretty bready. There's a tiny bit of like lemony citrus. It's not much at all. But yeah, like on a hot day, or not even a hot day, this is quite nice, yeah, as far as a sessionable lager goes, yeah. I suppose there is a bit of texture in there. I can kind of taste the yeast a bit. Yeast has a very distinct taste, regardless of what yeast you're using. There is like a yeasty taste to it. I wouldn't say, if you didn't tell me it was in there, I don't know if I'd have picked it up though, but I can taste a bit of that, and that's because again, with my home brews, it's always nice on the last eighth of it to kind of like, and then pour it directly into maybe this much of the beer that you've already poured, and it just clouds right up, and you get a good idea of what the yeast tastes like and what your beer tastes like naturally, quote unquote. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is like a bit of a marketing thing. Come on, you go in the fridge and all the writing's upside down. You go, oh, the guy at the CU kind of screwed that up. And then you see the foil on top and you go, oh, wait, hold on. The foil actually helps indicate that it's not the CU guy's fault for putting it upside down. It's a pretty clear indicator that, hold on, what's going on here? And of course you grab the can and then, gimmick. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, so there is a certain marketing aspect to this too. Even if they do have good intentions with actually giving you a beer from the old recipes, yeah, this is definitely kind of an eye-catching, gimmicky thing. But yeah, again, this was 3,500. I'm not sure if it was in the 4 for 11. It probably was in the 4 for 11 deal. But yeah, I mean, go grab one. It's a decent enough lager, just all things considered. Yeah, kind of fun. Up and down. Bring a friend, show a friend. Oh, yeah. Not highly recommended, but it's nice. It's a little bit of fun for having a can of beer. Yeah, interactive. So, yeah, you see one of these, pick it up. I can't recommend it very highly, but you know, it's kind of fun. It's cheap. When it gets hot out in the summer, grab one of these, give it a spin. Literally. I just had a bunch of this, but added note. The carbonation is not quite as high as a lot of the lagers that you're going to get. A little mellower, not flat, but flatter. Just keep that in mind.